Okay, so last time we were here, we took a look at that sample experiment, right? And we looked at your data from all of those things. And then we talked a little bit about and read about performing some different experiments. Because this week, what we need to do is we are actually going to be beginning or continuing our look at stats experiments, but then we're going to be beginning our practice internal. So that's going to be an experiment that comes straight out of the book, and we'll talk about what it is. You'll work on it on your own time, but we also have some class time to work on it. Ms. Milne has offered us the use of her year 11s to if you need somebody, because remember these experiments you're going to be asking people some questions and performing the experiments and collecting the data yourselves. So you will be able to work in groups on this assessment, because we're just practicing, okay? So, but when we do the actual assessment, you're on your own.
So when do we start the assessment?
The actual assessment begins the first week of term 4. So when we get back, for now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some sample experiments and get that done. Then we're going to have a week for you to do these, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do some feedback on that practice internal. So, all right? Yes.
Quick question. Does that mean that everybody here is going to be doing an experiment?
Everybody's going to be doing an experiment.
Do the Hercules do an experiment?
That I can't tell you yet, but we'll see.
I think the last time we did this, we did the plan in the group and the experiment together, but we brought the analysis
Separately. And that might still be the case. We'll see.
Okay.
All right? They're giving me directions as we go. Remember, I'm still as new at this as y'all are, so you got to bear with me a little bit. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about those experiments. That, the book gave you several sample experiments. Some of them broken down. Some of them they were meant for us to perform in class. But we're going to look at some of those so that you can see the pieces of it. Hopefully, all of you still have your copy of the assessment checklist. Did you get one of those? You didn't get one of those? Yeah, many of you got one because I don't have enough copies for everybody, but there was also times when you were out. So if you were out and you did not get one, you can come up and get one. But again, I don't have a ton of them.
Oh, I'm 2. Can I have 2?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so remember, this checklist will tell you everything about the experiment and all of the things that you're going to need to make sure that you have, right? And it can also be found, can be found online, but I just printed them out for you so you can have a good reference for it, okay? You need to make sure that you're including all of these pieces. So we'll talk about this once again before we start doing the assessment. Yeah, I turned it down. It was really hot. Okay, so did you, hopefully, read through some of those experiments that you saw in the book? Okay. Well, I hope so, because what we're going to do today is we're going to practice one. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do the ruler experiment because I know it. And it's really easy to do. Pardon?
What page is that on?
It's on page 25 in your book. All right? So, they give you very detailed, they've gone through this entire experiment. And so I want you, and that's why I've chosen it. Well, another reason I've chosen it is because I want you to be able to see exactly what an experiment looks like start to finish. But you're going to actually perform the experiment so you can have a little practice in working with your different people in your experiment. So let me get the rulers and get the things out. Okay, so what we did was we took the ruler, dropped it 10 times, measuring the distance from the dominant and then the non-dominant hand, right? Did you have a hypothesis in mind when you did that? What do you think was going to happen? Dominant hand would be faster? Is that what you found? Okay, good. But then remember that the question for the experiment wasn't the distance. The question they were asking was the reaction time, right? So they had to convert then the distances to reaction time using that chart, right? Which used a mathematical formula to find out each distance. You could have put them all in a formula if you wanted to and solved it. No? Okay. It's all right. You can use chart looks better now, doesn't it? Okay. Now, did you have any difficulties? In other words, can you think of any confounding variables that might have affected your outcome here? Yes?
Maybe the noise of everyone else in the room.
There was a lot going on. Do you think that could have had a chance? It could have had...
Like if they were tired or if they're hungry. Yeah, I'm tired.
Okay. So distractions. Well, of course you are. You're a teenager. You're supposed to be tired. I don't get it. Okay, so distractions, right? Noise in the room so that you're not concentrating when you're catching, maybe, right? Any others? What else? Yes. Was it always exactly the same height every time you dropped it? No? Yeah. That's back there. Notice that. Yes. Well, I'm sorry, what? They're learning because you're repeating the behavior, right? So their reaction, they're learning to anticipate, right? And they get. Did you notice that you got better? The people catching it, did they get better over time? Exactly, because it's a learned behavior, just like yeah. Yes.
Like sensing that to do it, sensing it all happens. So if your will wobbles slightly, you do it faster.
Exactly, because you think, all right, it's about to wobble, so she's about to drop it, right? So you learn to anticipate when it will drop based on the behavior of the person dropping it, yeah? Anything else? Any other confounding variables? Did you all love the chart? Were the conversions easy?
No.
Yeah, it was all right.
Eventually.
They were okay once you got to learn what you were doing, but did you get exact figures?
No.
It would be very difficult. Without going back to the formula, it would be almost impossible to get an exact figure, right? And did you see the formula on the other page? Anybody? It's
A distance is equal to 0.5
Right.
times 9,000. I don't know. This is
how fun would that be? You could do it. You could solve it for it, and you could solve it for each value, but that would be not fun, right? So, instead of doing that, we used the chart, but the chart distorted our values a little, didn't it? Because we could get just an estimate. Did you always measure exactly to the millimeter?
Oh, no.
Most of you are measuring in centimeters, and I told you that on purpose to mess with you. Because then the form was not in centimeters, but in what? Millimeters. So it's really important that whatever form you're going to be using for your data, you write it down and you make sure that your measurements stay true, right? If you're going to do this. This was all given in millimeters, so what should we have been measuring in? Millimeters, right? So you should be careful about and to stay true to the experiment. So, was everybody just so enthusiastic and happy to be doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, don't lie to me. I'm asking you a real serious question here.
Yeah.
No! Come on, I had to basically put the ruler in your hand and make you do it. So, do you think that might be a confounding variable when you're working with your population to do your experiment?
Yes, because some
Okay.
people might not be able to do it.
So, year 12s, of course, would be the perfect people to pick because they're completely focused on everything you want them to do, right?
Well, they're counting on prefect votes at the moment. So.
So,
They're going to be nice to us.
so they've got to be nice? Okay. Do you think if you did this with a different year level, you might get different results?
Yes, yes, would go at it. They would just love it.
I think the same thing. The enthusiasm for like a year 7 would be amazing because they would be so wanting to do something first of all, and they're so wanting to please you. So that's totally different.
Especially year 13, like,
So what do you suppose is going to happen when we go across and do those year 11s?
They won't care.
You don't think they'll care?
Like, they'll just
All right.
do it, but they
So you see that. What if you went home and did it with your parents?
don't care. Depends how nice.
Don't ever
Hey?
ask us.
So guys, hold it down. So do you think that your audience or the people you choose, your population it's called, right? Do you think your population is going to affect your results?
Yeah.
So, does that mean I should choose my population carefully to get the results I want? No, it means I should probably do what? Choose a huge range of population, right? So, because we want to make sure our sample is random. If we just pick the people in this class, we're going to get basically the same attitudes, the same results, aren't you?
Because we don't want to do well, so we'll just do it.
So, make sure you think about those kinds of things when you're planning your experiment. Because one of the things that you will be doing is you'll be taking these experiments. You'll be taking these experiments over the break, and you can do part of you're going to be doing part of your experimenting over the break. So you'll be doing some of your sampling. Aren't you glad? Your parents will be so proud that you have homework over the break. Oh. It'll be easy. All you have to do is find some people, and you'll also have some time during class. But then you can continue to expand your sample. Now, if you only use the class time and you have a limited number of people, how well do you think how great is your experiment going to look? Now, if one wants an excellence, one will probably do a little bit more during the break, right? A bigger sample, bigger population is going to make a difference to the results that you have, right? So be conscious of that. Okay, it's pretty nice that we're giving you that extra time. Actually, think of it like that. Okay, good. All right. Now, how important was it for you to record your data accurately?
Very.
Right. If you just wrote down some random numbers, right, or you didn't pay much attention to what number was on the ruler, you wouldn't get a good measurement, then your times are going to be very different, right? Okay. So it's another reason we wanted to look at this experiment so that you can see how important each stage is. Okay. So let's go to that paper that we gave you earlier, that checklist. Of course, I gave mine away, so I haven't one, but anybody have one in front of you, the checklist, and see if we can pull together the pieces for this experiment. Now, again, they've written it all out for us, so we know we have the whole experiment done for us in the book. But I wanted you to just think about what it is we were measuring, etc. So, what's the first thing on your checklist that we need to do for your experiment? A title. So, what might you title this experiment? Reaction time?
Dominant and non-dominant.
Okay. Reaction time for dominant or non-dominant hand? Something like that, right? So your title needs to describe what's happening. Yeah? So, what's the second thing you need after a title? The problem that you're looking at. Okay? What's our problem?
I have so many.
We don't have time to go into that. So let's...
Is it an I wonder statement?
I wonder, yeah.
If dominant hand have a faster reaction, that's it.
Yeah.
John from last year.
So,
Is there something harder?
this time you're going to be doing the experiment. The last time you just had the stuff to write about. Okay? So, you're going to be collecting the data. So, all right. So, I wonder if the reaction times are going to be different for the dominant hand and the non-dominant hand. Okay? What's this next thing on there? A plan. How can you measure it? What did you do? Anybody? So what did you do? What did we just do what was our plan?
What was the plan? Was it the step-by-step plan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what did we do? What was the plan?
To get students to see how their reactions to dominant.
Catch what? Catch the ruler, okay? So to get students to catch a ruler and make measurements, right? What else do we need in there?
What hand was the dominant?
We needed to know which hand was the dominant hand and which was non-dominant so that we could make accurate measurements. Anything else you need in the plan?
Like the actual, what year is it? So
Got a population going on? Who are you measuring? Was it a random sample? Right? So we've got to think about those kinds of things. So make sure that you're prepared for all of those when you write up the assessment. What's next after plan? The actual experiment. You're going to perform the experiment, which we did, right? We dropped the ruler 10 times for each hand. And we could take each group now and put all that information together. So if you were doing this as one big group, you could each do the experiment and then put them all together, put all your data together to actually do your graphs and information, right? What's next? The results, the data. Record the data, and how do we want the data? I just want a list on the back of an envelope somewhere? We want the box and whisker plot, the dot plot, right? So we just enter all of that stuff into Excel, making sure we watch our treatment and non-treatment, get all the pieces right, put them into Excel, then transfer that into NZ Grapher so that we could get our graphs. And then we're going to analyze that information. But what do we need to do before we get all of our data analysis? We need to do the summary statistics, right? And we want to use the re-randomization so that we get more data that mirrors what we did. Right? What else? Yeah. Then we figure out whether it's chance by looking at the that's supposed to be a normal curve. What if your probability landed over here? It's more chance than experiment, right? So be careful where your data where your probability lies. If it's above, if it's in that little tiny 10% above. Yeah. Okay. So what else? What's next?
I actually have a question about that. The book doesn't really specify how do you tell if it's in the top 10%. Does it say in the next?
Well, what would your probability be from here to here?
It would have to be big.
0 to a lot. 0 to like 90% maybe? Because this part is only 10%, right?
Okay.
So if it falls within that range, if it falls over 90%, that means you're in the top 10%. So you've gone beyond the range of just mere probability, mere chance. Okay? Because most of the data should fall here. So if it's following on that far side, then that means it's going to happen no matter what. Okay? All right, so what else? What's next? Analysis. And your analysis, you're going to have a little reading today about writing it up and doing the analysis. Make sure you answer those questions. And then finally, a conclusion. If you don't have a good conclusion, then you are not getting an A. Much less M or E. Okay? Y'all's A, not my A. Right. A for achieved, right? Okay, so good, excellent. So now you've got a little feel about what you're going to be up against. Yeah, when you're moving forward with your experiments. Good deal. All right. So next time, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the experiment that we're going to use for our practice internal. This is one again that y'all are going to work on together, and then you're going to write your conclusions separately. But we're going to work on it together. We're all going to be doing the same exact experiment. So you'll get a chance to really go through, develop your question, etc. And then what will happen is you will do those, then you're going to turn them into me, and I'm going to mark them using the grading criteria, the same grading criteria that you're going to have for your actual assessment. Ladies. Thank you. Now, so then I'm going to mark them with those same criteria. But what we're going to do is I'm going to look at them, then I'm going to give them back, and we're going to trade and grade. In other words, we're going to do a peer assessment. So your actual grade on that, which again, this is the practice one, is going to be determined by your peers. So you'll just trade papers, and I might decide to trade papers for you. And so you'll look at those, and then we'll go through the criteria together in class. We're going to take a whole week to go through every bit of the criteria in class and tear it apart. Okay? That'll be the week before we go away on break. Yeah?
Yeah, this sucks.
So, because what better way is there of learning how to do something if it's to teach someone else how to do it, right? So you're going to have to know what you're doing to be able to mark their paper, yeah? Okay.